All right, welcome into another episode of Sports Gambling with Moneyline. Alex Monaco here with my good friend. Over the years, we've worked together a number of times on air. Khristina Williams, one of the best, if not the best, at reporting all things the W. She has an incredible iHeart pod called In Case You Missed It with Khristina Williams, an award-winning women's basketball reporter. And might I say, Khristina, absolutely ahead of everyone as far as not only covering the W, but knowing its next league up. Here you got people like myself coming on, wanting to talk some shop, pick your expertise. So thank you so much for coming on, spending some time with me.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun chatting with you about women's hoops, Alex.
Look, you've tapped me a couple of times on the betting side. Like, this is a real market here and something to
Yeah.
definitely pay attention to. Want to talk a little betting, but I also want to talk overall. I'd be remiss if I didn't start out with some of the storylines out the gate. I want to start out with Angel and the Sky. Now, I mentioned to you off air, my brother's a huge fan of the W. We talk about the game. He's over here telling me she's evolved already as far as ball handling, as far as bringing the rock up, maybe even being pinged to be a little bit of that hybrid as far as facilitating. What say you on Angel? I know rough game yesterday, but just all things coming in, looking to add to her game. And let's just call it what it is. Already arguably the best rebounder in this league right now.
Well, you got that right. Angel Reese is the best rebounder in the WNBA. And I think that her offseason, just playing in Unrivaled, it definitely helped to up her game a little bit more. I know that, the Chicago Sky as a whole has been struggling through the first two games of the season, but look at who they are competing against. An Indiana Fever team that has a lot of veteran experience, a nice core, and then the defending champions in the New York Liberty. So I think it's hard to judge the Sky and Angel Reese. But back to the skills that she's bringing this season, I think that we're seeing a lot of bigs in the WNBA having to be more versatile stretch bigs. And I love that she's handling the rock and facilitating some of the Sky offense because it opens up the floor for a lot of other things to happen for the Sky's offense. And honest as kept, Angel Reese in her early basketball days did play at the guard position. So I feel like,
Great point.
she's just tapping into some skills that are already there. And I think that is super exciting because we know that she can rebound. We know that she's a hard competitor. So this is just going to add more to her game this season for the Sky.
Without question, and you take a look at just overall here as far as where this Sky is, they're plus 16,000 to win it all. So obviously from a Vegas perspective, not really a team that's going to be maybe going the distance, but I guess throwing it to you, is Angel someone that you can build around? I mean, I love the Cardoso. I think that on the block is something to build off for sure with championship background, plural for them. Any thoughts, though, just on the Sky, maybe this season? Is it a team that can go over their regular season win total? Do you expect them to maybe make a step, or is this just more about continuity and making sure the girls continue, in the right direction?
Well, outside of a few players on the roster, you have to think that in free agency, they acquired a lot of new pieces and they acquired a new coach as well. So I think that for fans, it's going to be a slow start for the Chicago Sky. I think one of the things that they lacked last year that they have this year was a point guard who can make post-entry passes and who
Sure.
could play make. And they got that in two-time champion Courtney Vandersloot, who helped bring the first championship to the Sky in 2021 and also the
Yeah.
first championship to the New York Liberty as well. And so, I love that the Sky have a mix of veteran pieces with a nice young core, but I do think that they have to continue to build chemistry. They're still figuring out a lot when it comes to what offense that they're going to play. Who are they going to play through? Like you mentioned, Camilo Cardoso,
Yeah.
um, and how they are like they call them the Sky Towers, the Twin Towers, or whatever.
Yeah.
And like I feel like Tyler Marsh is definitely figuring out, are you going to play through your bigs? Or are you going to play through your guards? And if I'm this guy, I want to play through my bigs and Camilla and Angel. But also, Elizabeth Williams is playing for the Sky this season. She missed a good chunk of last season because of her injury. And she had a decent offseason at Athletes Unlimited. And so for me, I tweeted out yesterday when they played against the New York Liberty, I would like to see Will get some extended minutes because
Yeah.
not only can she compete against some of the best bigs in the league, but she's also a veteran who could help work alongside Angel a little bit. Not saying that Camilla doesn't have what it takes to, you know, play the minutes that she's getting, but I think that you have to mix it in a little bit with the young players and the older players. So I think that the Sky can go the distance. I do think that maybe they turn the second half of the season. There's a lot of chemistry building that needs to happen first, though.
Well said. Last button on Angel. Anything you want to speak on or off the court? I mean, I thought obviously that Fever game was interesting. We talk with my boss. I talk with my boss all the time, Talea. You
Mhm.
good friend with her. I feel like, she gets a little bit of unfair. I don't know how you would say it in such said words, but just unfair. I don't know, slander. It's almost like this is about competition. This is about basketball. She brings out the best competition in her opponent. We can end it there. So yeah, anything to add to just her evolving
Yeah,
her
no, I
game?
agree with you. I think that, whenever a team is playing the Chicago Sky, Angel Reese is on that scouting report. You want to shut her down. You want to disrupt her game. I think we saw a little bit of that yesterday where she was scoreless until she scored 2 points in the fourth quarter with the New York Liberty.
Yeah.
They don't want to give it to her easy, right? Like, that she
Yeah.
can compete. You know that the Sky's offense is flowing through her. And so, in order to beat the Sky, you have to stop Angel Reese. When it comes to the situation with Caitlin Clark, I agree. I think that she's getting a lot of unfair bashing within the media. But, media knows what they're doing in the sense that if you put Angel Reese next or in a headline, it's going to get maximum clickbait. So I hope that she's keeping her head up and keeping it basketball. Caitlin Clark made a statement. Angel made a statement. It was a basketball play, a take foul. These women are competitors at the highest level. They show emotion, but they don't take it personal. And so I don't think anyone else should take those type of plays personal. If you've watched the WNBA within the first week, it got a little spicy this week. Well, multiple different teams. And so
Well
I
said.
think that it's great for the game. And yeah, I think it's unfair that people hold Angel to that standard, but I think that she's made for it. And I think that we haven't seen her best yet. And hopefully she uses this as motivation, to compete at the highest level.
I think you're doing something right if you're bringing out the best in your competition. You're on the scouting
Mhm.
report, and to your point, absolutely across the board. This is a competitive league. I want to switch over. As of last night, I'd be remiss. We had a little Caitlin, fever. They had a little mini series here, and they split, and they got the win here against the Dream. It was a nice ending to the game. Your thoughts? We had a little bump in. I'm not scared of you. I believe I'm paraphrasing from Caitlin's perspective. Talk a little bit about maybe her evolution here in the second season. Obviously, all eyes on her, but I do love the competitive element of this league, Khristina. Speak to me a little bit about her getting tested by the higher ups. In the NBA world, I'm always looking at it like a college campus, and you got upperclassmen, you got underclassmen. We have a sophomore on campus here, face of the league or not. She's still a sophomore. So anything to that, and should we expect more people to be coming at her from a competitive thought?
It's the same with Angel Reese. I mean, Caitlin Clark is on everyone's scouting report, right? She's one of the best players in the WNBA right now, and
Yeah,
so I like spicy Caitlin. I like that she's bucking back at people. I
I
absolutely
like
love
it
it. Like I said,
too.
it's great for the game of basketball, and hands down, these two games between the Atlanta Dream and Indiana Fever have been the most entertaining games by far. Because
Yeah,
on the other side, you have Ryan Howard, you have Alicia Gray. You have Tahina Pow who competed against Caitlin, South Carolina, and Iowa. Brittany Griner coming into the fold for ATL. So I loved watching this series this week with those two teams respectively. ATL got one and Indiana got one, and it came
yeah,
down to the wire in both games. And so what I like about the new look with the Fever is obviously they kept their core in Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, but they added veteran pieces around Caitlin Clark that I think was much needed, who when you put names like Dewana Bonner and Natasha Howard into the mix, Sophie Cunningham, who was really crucial down the stretch in that game against ATL,
yeah,
these are pieces that make the Fever championship contending a championship contender. And so I'm liking what I see from the Fever and Stephanie White, but also on the other side with ATL and how they are a team that really, honestly, I didn't think I saw the vision early on when they made their free agency moves in acquiring BG and acquiring Brianna Jones. But I see that it's working to Carl Smetskov's favor. And so I love watching that series this week between those two teams.
Quick thought on the Dream here, 36-1. It's kind of the Liberty, the Lynx, the Fever, the Aces, and then value at 16-1 and onward. Is the Atlanta Dream, I was going to throw it to you later in the pod, but are they someone to keep an eye on here on the futures market? Is 36-1. I mean, again, you saw them almost go a little clean Gryffindor sweep here, 2-0 against the Fever, who are third to win it all. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, someone to maybe keep an eye on that the market in Vegas may take a little bit longer to catch up with, perhaps with Atlanta?
I absolutely do think that Atlanta could be a sleeper team in it all because they haven't had Jordan Canada play in a regular season yet. She's expected to get another update from her injury in a couple weeks. And so you plug in Jordan Canada, who's won championships before, who was in contention at one point to win Most Improved Player of the Year. She's going to add a high value to this Atlanta Dream offensively and defensively. And then Brittany Griner, once she figures out her role within the team, she fouled out in both games.
Yeah.
Once she finds her rhythm and once they figure out how to win those fourth quarters, I think that the Dream could be a very dangerous team. Tahina Powpow has been amazing. Like her transition into the W, she's playing so confidently. She's shooting from the three at a high clip. And then you add Ryan Howard, who's an absolute dog. And I think that they want to win. They want to make the playoffs. They want to win. They could be a sleeper team for sure.
Pow, shout out Oceanside. I'm from San Diego, a couple miles down there. I gotta love her putting on for San Diego there. All right, quick thought on the Fever. This again is a team decorated. They added a couple pieces. You got Mitchell, you got Howard, in addition to, of course, the 1-2. That's Aaliyah Boston and CC. You mentioned Sophie Cunningham. This was a game against the Dream here, Khristina, where Caitlin only gives you 11. I do have a Bonner question for you. I mean, she's one of the most decorated scorers in the history of the league, but she is on the back nine. You know, if you just look at the stat sheet, obviously she's below her pay grade. Do you expect the Fever to find a nice organic rhythm to working her in to just their system? Do you feel like, I mean, any thoughts, keeping it positive with Bonner there? And I'm just, to me, I have to talk it out because, I mean, you know, I'm not used to seeing her put up a bucket or a point, you know, given who she has been. But it also takes time on a team that obviously several women are eating on. So, yeah, any thoughts here on Bonner being implemented? I know Lexi right now is coming off the bench, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, any thoughts there?
Yeah, as you said, it's going to take time. And I think that what makes this Fever team so good, where it wasn't so good last year, is the depth that they have. And, you know, DeWanna Bonner, just her presence on the court, it automatically makes teams a little bit different. Whether she's scoring, whether she's making stops on defense, I think that, you know, her presence alone is going to be a changing factor for the Indiana Fever. You saw late in the clutch, Steph White, she subbed out Caitlin. She put in DB
Yep.
for to make a defensive stop. She put in her defensive players, you know what I mean, to get a stop. So I think that, you know, sometimes it might not show up on the box score for DB, but I don't think that this is something that we will see consistently throughout the season. She's the third all-time leading scorer in the WNBA.
Facts.
So she
Happened
knows
the
how to
other
get
night.
buckets.
I love it.
She
Yeah. At the free
she's
throw
won
line. Smooth.
championships, right? She's won championships. People compare her game to the likes of Kevin Durant. So we know that
Love it.
DeWanna Bonner can score. We know that she's healthy. It's just all about, as you said, figuring out, you know, what her role will be within the team. But I think on nights where she's not scoring, she's doing a little bit of everything else that we don't necessarily see on the box score.
Yeah, and you often forget, you know, when you're on a roster like this, sometimes when you're not making an impact necessarily in the same way in the box score that you're used to, you still, to your point, championship pedigree, seen everything in the league. There's just no way that doesn't have a compound effect to just pushing them towards their goal. I want to ask you about Caitlin and just kind of her evolving in the second year as a leader. You again saw it, obviously, women coming at her. I love it for the competitive nature of the game. Do you see her, you know, off for Caitlin standards, an off night, 11, 6, and 4, definitely going under on all of her props. Anything you want to see out of CC in the next few games, in the coming weeks here in the league from a leadership perspective, and anything maybe you want to forecast, you know, wish list, something off the court, anything just overall, Caitlin Clark, with obviously all eyes on her?
Well, I know for a fact that we're not going to see Caitlin Clark go 0 for 5 from the 3-point line again this season. You know what I mean? Every
Facts.
superstar has their night, and she struggled a little bit offensively in that game against the Dream, but I think that's credit to their defense. You know what I mean? So I think that what I would like to see from Caitlin Clark, I mean, she's already shown us what she can do. I would like her to be more of a three-level scorer, I guess. And I would like to see her make some defensive stops as well. I think that that
I like
that
that.
side of it, like show a little bit what you can do on the defensive end as well. I'm not saying she can't play defense, guys, but I'm saying I would like to see it turned up a little bit more, kind of in the same way that Sabrina has done in her year 5 when they won the championship last year. So I would like to see a little bit more D from Caitlin Clark.
Well said. Looking at the on the Aces side, a little bit of turnover. Kelsey Plum goes to the Sparks, obviously double digit decorated scorer. I kind of wanted to ask you, and this again, also shout out my brother. He's like, you got to ask about Jackie Young. Is this a breakout
Yeah.
year for her? Chelsea Gray getting older, obviously, everyone needing to step up. Asia's still face of the league in many regards and top of the league. But how do you navigate with championship expectations, little bit of turnover and off an L? I mean, do you expect the best version of the Aces? I know they're 1-1 to start, but obviously championship hopes, Vegas reflects that. But yeah, any thoughts here on just their overall team and their flow here, and anything to expect from my vantage point?
Yeah, I think what's funny to me, Alex, whenever anyone talks about, age and the W, I feel like it's almost not a real thing because we've seen players like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi play 2 decades in the
Facts.
WNBA. And I think that the shelf life for a W player is completely different than any other league in terms of the longevity. And so,
We got Tina Charles
Chelsea
in the
Gray,
league still. Let's
Tina
go.
Charles is still hooping, you know what I mean? So when I think about, and DB is still hooping as well. But
Facts.
when I think about a player like Chelsea Gray, I mean, last year we didn't get to see her at 100% because she was coming back from an injury, something that she struggled with through the Olympics and all season with the Aces. But I think that, playing at Unrivaled has helped not only Chelsea Grays, the Jackie Youngs, it's helped a lot of players in the league who participated. We've seen Lexi Hall and some of
Yeah.
the players on other teams who have taken a huge leap from playing at the highest level in Unrivaled. And I think that that has helped. I think through the first couple games with the Aces, we've seen a healthy Chelsea Gray. And that is scary hours for the rest of the league because she is the state of the Aces, head of the snake of the Aces. And so she's the one who's making all the plays. Once we pop with Asia Wilson, Jackie Young is going to be Jackie Young. We've seen when Tyler Marsh was developing her, how she was effective at the 3-point line. But she's
Yeah.
also playing so much more confidently these days. And I think that's, of course, scary hours. She can also alternate between shooting guard and point guard. Like she's played at Notre Dame as well. So I think that we're seeing a healthy Aces team. That was something that they didn't really have last year. Kia Stokes was also struggling in terms of her health last season. So we're starting to see them come into the fold. I am a little bit worried about Asia Wilson's usage in terms of the amount of minutes she might have to play this season because they still have Meg Gustafson who um, is injured right now, and her
Yeah.
return is still up in the air. Cheyenne Parker Tyus, who's pregnant and won't be able to come back until probably the second half of the season. And so right now the question is the front court for the Aces and who's going to be supporting Asia Wilson in the front court. The guard play is there. They added Jewel Lloyd. We
Yeah.
seen her the other night, masked Jewel, put up some numbers.
Love it.
I love that she's starting to prove everyone wrong, starting to get a little bit comfortable. But my biggest question mark right now for the Aces is the front court. They brought in someone like Crystal Bradford, who hadn't played in the league in about 4 seasons, and so she's someone who can rebound. She can get a bucket. She can push the pace. She brings all of the energy for the Aces. Um, but also, I'm just still worried a little bit about the front court and who's supporting Asia Wilson. But I think the Aces will be fine.
Yeah. Want to touch on the Liberty too. Obviously, only a handful of teams to go back to back. Coming off the championship win, it was great. The ring night the other night to kick things off here. Nick's just trying to follow in the footsteps of the Liberty over here, Khristina. Let's go.
Yes.
But you mentioned obviously Courtney moved on, a little bit of turnover now. Natasha Cloud's a real player, obviously two-way. So, I mean, you got your core three, of course. with Sabrina, Stewie, John Quell. So any thoughts here? Liberty just little bit of turnover as well, but just excellent vibes. They look like they're hitting the ground running. So, I mean, just nothing but positive here for the Liberty. Are there any trials and trips for them? I know there are for every team, but they're just so stacked and well balanced here. I got to stay positive here in this New York market.
I have no idea how general manager Jonathan Cole pulled a highway robbery with the pieces that he was able to add to the Liberty in the offseason. You talk about getting rid of Courtney Vandersloot. Well, not getting rid of. They didn't re-sign Courtney Vandersloot. She moved on and went back to Chicago. Kayla Thornton, who was part of the second unit, she's now with the Golden State Valkyries. But they got absolutely better. They were able to bring Marine Johannes back from France. She announced this week she's not playing in Eurobasket. So this is the first time in her career that she will be with the Liberty from training camp to the end of season, which is a huge plus for that second unit. And then Rebecca Gardner as well. She missed an entire season last year due to an injury, and now she's back. She's huge on the defensive end for the Liberty in that second unit as well. Leonie Fibic, Nayara Sabali, two players who were very crucial in that Game 5 win against the Minnesota Lynx, defensively and offensively, what they can do. I think what makes the Liberty special is their length and versatility. Every player is interchangeable in that lineup. You add Natasha Cloud. I think a lot of us have been saying she's been the vocal leader for the New York Liberty. So they have a lot of quiet leaders, but you insert a player like Natasha Cloud who just turns up the team to a different level. She can guard 1 through 4. In her words, she's a shooter as well. I think and to me, I put this out there today, they look like they are having just a blast out there. Becky Hammond said after the Game 1 loss to the Liberty, they were running layup drills on us. You saw what they were doing to Chicago, making history with the 19 three-pointers in the game against Chicago. So this is a team that offensively is starting to click. I thought that would take them some time, but no, they haven't missed a beat. They're playing well. I think that what I want to see more from them is just better half-court offense. And that's something that Coach Sandy talked about in her post-game earlier this week, is just playing their game at their pace. And then on the defensive side, I'm certainly pleased with what I'm seeing from them defensively. I think that they fixed all of the problems that we saw in the past, with the perimeter defense being a liability. You add Natasha Cloud, you add Leonie Fibic into the starting lineup. Well, those are two players who can defend the perimeter very well. And then you have Jonquel Jones and Brianna Stewart in the front court, two of the best bigs in the league right now. I think that it's a well-oiled machine. So I like where the Liberty are. I think that, they are definitely the favorites to go back to back.
Yeah, and they definitely are right behind the Aces. My bad. I got a little too excited. I realized Aces and the Liberty 2 years ago was Lynx. I was Lynx Liberty, misspoke there. But yes, speaking of the Lynx here, led by Nafisa Collier. And again, you mentioned Unrivaled a couple of times. Talk about adding to your game. I mean, she had 28 the other night in a nice win against Dallas here, and 4 women in double figures. So obviously the Lynx coming out, I don't want to say Snickers hangry off a championship they felt they had, and it really could have went either way last final. So is this team, to you, all things Minnesota, the team this year we should be keeping an eye on? Because right after the Liberty to repeat at plus 290 is the Minnesota Lynx, Khristina.
I definitely think Minnesota will be New York Liberty's biggest competitors as of today. And you mentioned Nafisa Collier. After Asia Wilson, Nafisa is the best WNBA player in the league.
You still got Asia, by the way? You still got Asia? Are they 1-1A?
I think Asia Wilson is hands down the best player in the WNBA right now. And right after Asia, I have Nafisa. But she didn't take that loss to the Liberty in Game 5 lightly. She's been talking about it out in the public, saying how she's using that as a motivation. She feels like the Minnesota Lynx should have won that game. And so this is we've seen how, players can use a loss to fuel them to win. And the Lynx, they have a good core. Courtney Williams is still there, Natisha Heidemann, Kayla McBride as well. And so I think the Liberties are certainly, the favorites after the Liberty to possibly win the championship this year. It's a well-oiled machine. They returned most of their core. And then they added some additional pieces as well to help. So I like where they are right now.
If you are flirting with taken Collier to win the MVP, and it's real tight between Caitlin as the chalk, Asia right behind her, and then Nafisa. Do you feel like whoever, and obviously these awards are locked up by the time you're getting to the championship, but do you
Yeah.
feel like this is a year theme wise, whichever woman takes their team to the finals, wins it all, is likely your MVP, whether it's Caitlin and the Fever, Asia and the Aces, or Collier in Minnesota?
That's a good question, Alex. I think in terms of MVP, obviously Asia Wilson won unanimously last year. She's a three-time MVP. And I hope that voters don't feel voters fatigue and
Is
they
there, yeah,
really
is there a Jokic element here in the W? We got to talk this out.
early on I'm hearing a lot of media say they want Nafisa to win, and it's like, oh, you guys are counting out Asia Wilson already. And some of them are using, oh, she won, three times already. It's Nafisa's turn. But I feel like it's just all dependent. If the obviously playoffs has nothing to do with the regular season
Yeah.
awards, right? Like, but as you said, it's about the head-to-head matchups. It's about which player could just lead their team back to the top spot. It's going to be a very, very hard race. I don't know.
Tough to say. Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be
Is
very
is
hard. It's going to be
Collier
very
the
hard to see.
SGA? Is there an SGA comp here? Is it like the Lynx
That's
are the
exactly what I'm
Thunder in a
feeling.
lot of ways?
That's exactly the vibe that I'm feeling this year. Not saying that I'm feeling that way, but I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people around the league are leaning towards that. Not saying that Nafisa is not deserving. I feel like last year she could have been deserving as well. She edged out Asia Wilson for Defensive Player of the Year. And sometimes voters use Defensive Player of the Year as a cop out, like, oh, they didn't get MVP. Let me just give them the Defensive Player of the Year.
Right.
But I think that when you look at these numbers, her efficiency, just how impactful she is on both sides of the ball for the Minnesota Lynx,
Complete
who
game.
was a team last year that was, ninth in rankings and went all the way to the finals, won the Commissioner's Cup against the New York Liberty. You have to factor all of those things into um, who is going to be the MVP. I think that the deciding factor definitely will be the head-to-head matchups against the Fever, against the Aces, against the Liberty. That will, determine whether or not she can make it for the MVP this year.
So we are running out of time here. We only have a couple more for you. I want to throw a Becker's question to you off a double-double. An L against, of course, Minnesota, but double-double, 12 and 10. We'll take that. I always find it fascinating, Khristina, when you go from playing college ball and then the off seasons, it's just so different. So, yeah, are you impressed thus far with Paige? You still feeling like she's the front runner for Rookie of the Year? I know there's some value on the Rookie of the Year side of things. You can answer a 2-for-1 here, but yeah, are you liking so far what you're seeing out of Paige and kind of being ingratiated into the Dallas culture here?
Yeah, I think that Paige is transitioning very well to the WNBA. I had a chance to talk to Diana Taurasi on Tuesday, and she talked about how she just loves the maturation of Paige Beckers. And I think that that's carrying over into the WNBA. She's being a leader on the floor. I think that, people expect her to be like Caitlin in terms of the flashy threes and stuff, but you look at the stat, she's the Paige that we know. She's efficient. She's getting stops on defense. She's doing a little bit of everything. But the last five teams in the standings as of today are all teams that have new coaches, pretty much new rosters. And so I don't think we should count Dallas's record against them right now. This is a team with all new players. There are only three returning players from last season. So
Yeah.
new players, a new coach as well, and Chris Clocanis. They're still trying to figure out the offense, but I'm excited to see her play alongside Arike Gumbawale. They've had some tough competition through the first couple games. And so I think that it's going to be an overall team effort. Now, do I think that Paige has what it takes to be Rookie of the Year? Yes. I do think that the rookies in Washington definitely have something to say. Kiki Iriafen and Sonia Cintron are.
That's our girl
If
Talea's
we had
pick
to, if we
right
had to
there.
predict,
I mean, I like the value. I kind of got sold.
we had to predict today. Those Washington rookies are doing it big right now. The Mystics, through the first two games, I was thoroughly impressed with what I was seeing from the Mystics rookies and how well they transitioned with having to hold such a huge responsibility. The Mystics are a team that finished in the last of the standings last year, and now through the first 2 weeks are kind of at the top of the standings in the W. And I know it's just going
Yeah.
into the second week, but these are two rookies who honestly have transitioned so well and look the most pro ready today.
Gotta love going at the same time, too, taking that next step up. All right, Khristina, last question. Any underrated storylines, any player, any team to keep an eye on here? You know, I'm in the betting world, so I'm always looking for value. But yeah, want to get you out of here with just anything, tossing it to you here, you're speaking on your pod, or just something we missed overall here.
Yeah, I would say watch out for the Seattle Storm. This is a
Ooh, I
team that I
like
keep
it.
talking about, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, why are you saying the Seattle Storm?" Well, Nneka Ogwumike has finished in the top five in MVP standings for the last few years. You
Yeah.
have Skylar Diggins-Smith, who is finally back in her tip-top shape, and Gabby Williams, who also played for France for that national team last year that
Huge
almost
in
beat Team
FIBA.
USA.
Oh yeah, huge. Had
She is
all
not
the
going to
eyes were
Europe.
on Gabby in that tourney in that
She's
game.
not going to Eurobasket following in Marine Johannes. She's not going to Eurobasket. She's been with the Storm since training camp. She's going to be with them for the duration of the entire season. And they
Big.
have the number two pick in Dominique Malonga as well. And so this is a team that has a lot of great pieces defensively, a lot of great vets as well. One of the older teams, they added 3-point shooting and adding Lexi Brown and Erica Wheeler to the squad as well. And so I think that people shouldn't sleep on Seattle, no pun intended. But I think that this is a team that could definitely make a run for it.
Look, you're on. In case you missed it with Khristina Williams on iHeart, I no longer missed it. Now 26-1 for Seattle on our way out here. They clearly, in Vegas's terms, could be based off where they are on all the futures boards. They're right there after the huge drop off after the Aces. It's the Mercury and Seattle right there as maybe next team up. So, Khristina, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us where we can listen on iHeart to your pod and every reporting that you do. You have the all-time best X name. It's just at Khristina, Khristina. But yeah, just quick little plug because you're doing great work and you've been really at the forefront of growing this game. So I wanted to give you some shine.
Yeah, well, thank you, Alex, first and foremost, for always including me in your coverage. But
Yeah,
you can find my show, in case you missed it, with Khristina Williams on the iHeart Women's Sports Network. New episodes every Wednesday. And as Alex said, for all of the latest breaking news, follow at Khristina. And for daily updates, follow at Girls Talk Sports TV. So
there
thank
it
you.
is. Oh, absolutely crushed it. Hope to have you on again and happy season. Let's go.
Certainly, let's go.